What is up, guys? It is Will Sports, and today I'm going to be covering the Lions win over the Packers in a huge NFC North battle on Thursday Night Football. The Lions were able to win this game 34-20. This was a very anticipated game. Like I said, it was a huge game in the NFC North between the two teams that have been the best in the standings so far. Both teams came in 2-1. And we were going to learn a lot about how this division was going to look going forward. And the Lions from the jump just looked like the much better team. They came out and dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Were able to get whatever they wanted, on the ground, through the air. They were doing a great job protecting Jared Goff. Outside of an early interception by Jared Goff, he played a very solid game. But most importantly, they were getting to Jordan Love. They were getting to the quarterback throughout the entire game. They had 5 sacks in this game on Jordan Love. And some of those were just him holding onto the ball too long, not evading the pocket quick enough. But they were getting there, and they weren't giving up a lot of rush yards. I think on the day, the Packers had 27 total rush yards. So it was a very impressive, dominant performance from the Lions. I think the Lions in that first half, I kept seeing on Twitter people just raving about Ben Johnson's play calling. He's going to be a head coach next year. He's, been amazing for the Lions, and I think he had an opportunity to be a head coach this past offseason. He decided to stay in Detroit, but I don't think he's going to pass that up again if the opportunity arises, because I'm sure so many teams are going to want a guy like him. Every team's looking for a young and upcoming offensive coordinator, someone with a bright offensive mind, because that's what the NFL is shifting to. So it makes sense. But yeah, the Lions controlled this game. David Montgomery had 121 yards on the ground. He had a lot of carries, and I saw a lot of people saying they didn't like that he was getting all the carries because they had Jahmyr Gibbs on their fantasy team. And I do think they need to involve Jahmyr Gibbs a little more. I think that was something that all Lions fans want, because every time he gets the ball, it just seems like something good happens for the Lions. But Montgomery had a very steady game, just kept, churning the rock, kept, picking up, 5-6 yard gains and stuff like that. And he kept putting the Lions in third and shorts, and the Packers just could not get them off the field on third down. And like I said, Jared Goff in that passing game, he's been solid all season. Outside of that one interception, he did a good job of keeping the ball out of harm's way, getting into their weapons. This is a team with a lot of young, pieces, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra, Khalif Raymond, several guys on this team, Josh Reynolds. I mean, this is a team that right now they're building a core going forward, and they're going to be a tough out all season and for years to come. But I think Detroit put the entire NFC on notice, probably the entire NFL, but I'm just saying NFC specifically because when we've talked about the NFC, we haven't really brought the Lions up amongst the best. A lot of people thought they'd win the North, but I don't think anyone thought anybody in the North was a legitimate, contender to come out the NFC. Well, I think now you have to put the Lions in that upper echelon of the NFC with the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. The Lions have to be in that discussion right now because they've gone to Arrowhead and won a game. Now, albeit it was without Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, but it's still a tough place to play, and it's still a Chiefs team with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're always going to be a tough out. And now you go on the road and you beat the Packers in Lambeau. And the Packers aren't a great team, but this is a good team. They're a respectable opponent. And you go in there and you get a pretty dominant win. I know the Packers kind of made a little bit of a comeback in the second half, but the Lions controlled this game. I think the main reason that the Packers were coming back in the second half is because the Lions were really conservative in the second half. I don't think they were trying to, be the same way they were in the first half. It's kind of a mellow attack in the second half. So the Packers got some momentum, and they also were giving up some plays through the air. Jordan Love started to be a little more accurate. They weren't getting as much pass rush in that second half. So it helped the Packers get back into it a little bit. But the Lions, were able to overcome that. That penalty that the Packers had late in the game, when it could have been a 30-17 game, but they had a penalty on that field goal that killed all the momentum the Packers had and any chance they had of coming back. And the Lions, took advantage, and they were able to, control the rest of the game and win it. But yeah, you got to put the Lions in that top echelon. I know Jared Goff is probably a step down from, Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott Dak Prescott, he's about even with, but step down from Jalen Hurts. But the Lions as a whole just look so good. Like I said, their offensive and defensive lines can go toe to toe with anybody. They have a good run game. They have great play calling. They have a quarterback who, has been to a Super Bowl, has Super Bowl experience, knows what it takes to get there, knows how to play the right way to get you there. They have weapons. I mean, this is a team that they don't have many weaknesses. So I think the Lions. The major weakness that a lot of people have had with this team is that there's pass defense, their secondary, but they look solid tonight. For the first half against the Packers. So I think the Lions are going to be a legitimate threat in the NFC today. They just kind of put everybody on notice, and good performance from them all around. Dan Campbell really doing a great job. 3-1 this season. Last year they ended the season, I think, 9-2. So that's 12-3 span in their last 15 games. So give the Lions a lot of credit for how they've been performing. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC, and they're going to be a tough out. And they were my pick before the season to win the NFC, so I'm not really surprised. Win the NFC North, so I'm not really surprised. But it's just nice to see it come into fruition and to see them, looking the way they should. Packers, I want to touch on them a little bit. I did make a video about Jordan Love and the Packers after their win against the Saints last week. I was very impressed with Jordan Love in that game. He was not perfect, especially in that first half. They could not move the ball, but his resilience in his fight and the way he turned it up a notch when they absolutely needed to. I was very impressed with that, and he made winning plays, and they were able to come back and win. Today, it was kind of feeling the same way. Like, it felt like they were going to make a little comeback, like I said, but, the Lions, that penalty that they had just killed all their momentum. But Jordan Love, it's like he's performing best when his back is against the wall, when they're down 20 points or something, because the first half, he was pretty bad. The offensive line was terrible, too, and the play calling was bad. But Jordan Love was inaccurate. He looked rattled by all the pressure that the Lions were throwing at him. And he was holding on to the ball too long. He wasn't using his legs, and he just looked completely out of sorts. But in the second half, he calmed down. He started to make some on-target throws. They started to get the ball out quicker too, to kind of alleviate some of that pressure. And he was more accurate. He looked more comfortable. He looked more confident in the second half, and his decision-making was better. But this is something that's going to be a concern with the Packers, because Aaron Jones and Christian Watson were both back today. Now, they still have Bakhtiari and Jenkins out on their offensive line, but they had their two top playmakers back in this game, and they were barely used. Aaron Jones had 5 carries, and then Christian Watson had 2 receptions. So they weren't very involved in the game plan. I was really not understanding why they weren't involving those guys and why they were not running the ball. They weren't running the ball in that first half. There were so many dropbacks, and against this Lions defensive line with your offensive line, it just didn't seem like a good idea to keep having dropbacks. And Jordan Love, like I said, was not playing well, so you would have thought run the ball, maybe some quick games, screen passes, out routes, something that's gonna get us some type of rhythm offensively. But they weren't doing that. So they were doomed from the jump, because they got themselves into such a big deficit early that they weren't able to overcome. And you're not going to be able to come back from a deficit like that every week. But as far as the Packers, I do think that they're still going to be a good team going forward. I still think they're a team that's going to be in the playoff hunt, because Jordan Love is a solid player. He's still got a lot of work to do and growing, but he shows flashes. And like I said, when it's time to get it turned around and it's time to make a comeback, he's turning it up and he's upping his level of play. So I just think it's about this offensive line improving, and that will happen when they get their 2 big dogs back on that line. And they're going to have to, be better at starting these games off well, because they did not start these last 2 games off well against the Saints and the Lions. So coming from behind is not something you want to be having to do every week. And then defensively, I didn't like anything. I mean, they weren't able to stop the run. There was a lot of open guys down the field, a lot of yards after the catch, not much pressure on the quarterback. So the defense didn't look good in this game. And the defense has looked solid, the first 3 games, albeit they didn't play a great offense. The best offense they played was probably the Falcons, but it still looks solid. But you play the Lions today and you get completely exposed defensively. So Jair Alexander also didn't play. So this is a Packers team that has been injury, ridden throughout the first part of the season. And Luke Musgrave today went down with a concussion, apparently. So this is a team that's been battling injuries, but if they could get healthy, I still have confidence that they can be a contending team to make the playoffs in the NFC. The NFC is not great. You're going to be battling with teams like, the Saints and the Falcons, Seahawks, teams like that. Maybe the Rams if, they could get Cooper Kupp back. So, I mean, they're going to be in that hunt at least. So, I think they just need to get healthy, but they also need to start these games off better. I think the play calling has got to be better, and you got to have more of a balanced attack and stop just depending on Jordan Love solely. And he needs to be better at, not getting too rattled by the pressure and making the right decisions when he is getting pressured. But I still think the Packers are going to be solid. But great game right here. Like I said, Lions proved to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Got to keep paying attention to them going forward, as they're going to be a tough out. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this game. Let me know you guys' thoughts down below and what else you guys would like me to make any videos about. And yeah, it's been Will Sports. Peace.